All right. Fill me in on where we are, and from your perspective, in a legal perspective, what is going on in Oxford with this group who was thinking about apparently sending a letter to Governor Reeves. Take it from there.
Yeah, certainly. So there's a group that's formed called Mississippians for Mask Choice. And what's transpired over the past couple weeks, there was a school board of election vote where they decided to let the parents decide whether children going back to school would wear masks or not. Then 4 hours, and they voted 4-1 to let the parents decide. 4 days later, the superintendent unilaterally sent out a message overriding that vote and essentially saying, actually, masks are going to be required. Now, that's caused significant anxiety and disappointment, and a lot of parents are very upset about this because it was 4 days after a vote that reflected the community's position and weighing in of weeks with the various board members and folks that are involved in making that decision. So now we find ourselves in this position where that process was completely overruled, and we've been asking questions about what's the local information that justifies this action. The difference today between COVID a long time ago is we have the benefit of studies of how COVID impacts kids, how mask mandates work or don't, and a lot of other factors that parents can take into account in terms of what is best for their child. But we've had a superintendent step in the place of the parent, make this decision before, after a vote went down, and there's questionable scope of authority, questionable information in terms of health-based data, what is going on locally to justify this thing. I'll tell you, I was looking at some of the Mississippi Department of Health information this morning, and in the county of Lafayette, for the preceding 6 weeks, there have been 0 deaths overall. And there's been an average for ages 5 to 17, so school-age kids, there's been an average of 3.5 cases. So to me, there's nothing compelling to justify such a draconian measure to overrule this process that went down, that the parents were involved in, but then completely taken out of the equation.
Here's the other question here in this paradigm of authority. Why can't we get a clear answer? Because I would think it would not change from school district to school district. I asked over the weekend for some type of statement from the state superintendent, and here's what I got. The state superintendent advises them to follow whatever the CDC or the DOH, Department of Health guidelines are. Local school boards ultimately are responsible for passing policies for their districts. The Mississippi Department of Education nor the state superintendent have the authority to override a local school board's policy. So if the school board is in charge of this, can't they just say, look, the superintendent is out of order, boom, our ruling holds?
Yeah, you would think so. You would certainly think so that would be the case. But as you can imagine, after this decision came down, it's been hard to get that type of information from anyone. But I would take a step back, Paul. I would say that it's beyond these type of decisions from interfering what would otherwise be a very good process. What we're asking in our letter to the governor and laying out is, look, there are local entities that are abusing their authority that is infringing on fundamental liberties of parents to make decisions, well-informed decisions for what is best for their kids. And I'll stop there for a second because there's some parents and teachers that have reached out. Their kids suffer from anxiety or all sorts of other harm caused by wearing masks in the school. They know because they went through it last year. And the local officials aren't taking this into account. So we're asking the governor to step in and just say, look, we're a no mandate state. He rightfully said not too long ago that the guidance coming from the CDC, we know that it's been influenced by the national teachers unions and other political influences. He said that it was foolish. He said that Mississippi wouldn't be a state where he would embrace these type of mandates. But unfortunately, there are some local officials disregarding that advice from the governor and trying to impose mandates that really undercut the role of the parent in making these types of decisions for their children. That's what we're asking.
I don't know if it's going to catch on elsewhere, but Tennessee and Arkansas in the last couple of days, and I think Tennessee yesterday, also announced a special session of their legislature to address this as far as the mask and the kids are concerned. So we'll see what happens. But me not being an attorney, I'm sitting here wondering if a child undergoes some type of respiratory backlash from this, would not that principal be legally culpable in some way for doing this? I mean, are they insulated from any lawsuits or any consequences at all?
Well, I imagine I don't know the ins and outs of that degree of liability, but I think in making these decisions, I used to make these type of decisions when I worked at the Environmental Protection Agency. You've got to look at the comprehensive scope of information. You've got to weigh perceived benefits with perceived risk and then make those sorts of decisions. And in this instance, those decisions are best handled by the parent because the school doesn't always know those specifics about the child, what is best for the child's health, what's best for the child's learning. And that is all that we're asking. We're asking the local officials to step back, let the parents